Hi everyone, this is Aaron, and for this episode of Unicoi Questions, we're going to step inside the 11th grade Sunday school class where Pastor Jackson Lau was our guest teacher for a day. For this episode, we're going to ask him, Pastor Jackson, how did you become a Christian?
I am a true FOB, okay? Most people now are FOP, fresh off the plane, not the boat. We came by boat, 21 days across the Pacific Ocean. So we landed in San Francisco, took the train down to LA, and I've been here ever since, okay? So my exposure to the church was my aunt went to church. She invited me to go. Too dumb to say no. So we went Sunday school, learned about Jesus Christ and all that. And to me, it was like learning about Donald Duck, Dracula, the new things you learn in American culture. But one day when I was 12, I'd been in Sunday school about 3-4 years, my Sunday school teacher asked me to go to worship. And that was my first worship that I ever went to. And at the end, the pastor gave an invitation, who wants to accept Christ. In those days, you didn't sort of say a quick prayer or raise your hand. You had to walk down the whole aisle. If you want to accept the Christ, you have to walk all the way down, stand in front. And that's what I did. I felt I was struggling for a long time, but I think it was about 1 minute. But it felt like 10 minutes. For some reason, my heart started beating fast. And this was my first worship. I've been in Sunday school, and I wanted to, but I was reluctant to. But that was the biggest decision I ever made in my life. And it's the best decision. So I accepted Christ when I was 12. When I was about 15, 16, I doubted my salvation because I said, well, when you're at your age, you examine everything that you learned before. Did I learn it because I just learned it, or my parents told me, my teacher told me, or is it real? Do I accept it? So I could not intellectually honestly say at that point whether I truly accepted Christ at the age of 12. I thought, was I under pressure? Did I do it because other people do it? So that bothered me for several months. I don't know if you ever had doubts about your salvation, but it bothered me for more than half a year. Then finally it occurred to me, the light bulb came out, and I said, well, I don't know. I could not honestly say because, when you're at that age, you can't be honest, intellectually honest and say, did I really do it? I couldn't say absolutely yes. But the light bulb came on and said, I don't know what I did at 12, but I know what I want now. And so I just prayed to receive Christ. I think looking back on it, that was just a assurance. My true salvation day is when I was 12. But at 15, 16, when I was going through this, I could not say what I can say to you. I am absolutely sure I was saved at 12. So that was very helpful to me. So I looked at some of your things. You guys at different schools. I went to LA High School. Looks like the majority of you go to Diamond Bar Walnut. I went to LA High School. That's the oldest high school in Los Angeles. There's a football in the trophy case. In 1910, LA High School beat USC in football. There is a football like that. I don't think we can beat it. But our football team was pretty good. We won a city one year. So, I got involved in student government. I was involved. I was a gymnast. That's because I was a dumb kid. When I got into high school, they put me in 6-period gym. There's no 6-period gym. 6-period gym is sports. So somehow I got into gymnastics. So I led in gymnastics. I was not very good. I did the pommel horse. But my team was very good. We won all city. And in fact, one of my classmates eventually ended up being the coach to one of the men who when they won, the U.S. won gymnastic gold medal, I think about 20 years ago. Yeah, so I was no good, but my team was very good. So had a lot of fun doing that. I was basically a science major, science-oriented. Let me also tell you that when I was 14 years old in one of our high school groups, or junior high school group, I committed my life to full-time ministry if God should call. I never sensed God calling. So I went to UCLA, was there for about 3 years. I did prerequisites, and then I went to USC Pharmacy School. I graduated from there. I still didn't sense God's calling. So I worked for 10 years as a hospital pharmacist in San Fernando Valley. And then I sensed God's calling. A handful of time in my life, I have words come into my mind. It's not audio. In other words, I don't hear a voice except in my mind. And those handful of time, I know it's from God. Once when I was in junior high school, I remember I was at my desk. I was a fat little kid. My nickname in Chinese is Fei Jai. And if you understand Cantonese, that means fatso in a nice way. I was sort of slow academically, and so I had a hard time. And when I was studying, I often cursed myself because I didn't like the way I was, and I didn't like the fact that I couldn't solve those algebra problems. You remember those algebra problems where you have the boat going like this way, the current's going this way, and you had to solve the problem, remember? Or you mix the nuts. Don't you? You have those algebra problems? Do you still have those algebra problems? Anyway, so I was sitting on my desk and I was cursing myself, you know? And it was one of those life-changing moments. And the word that came into my mind was, you're good enough for me, you should be good enough for yourself. Basically, you're good. And I heard it as God speaking to me. And I never had any problem after that feeling inferior or being no good. Because basically God in that voice spoke to me and says that if you're good enough for me, you should be good enough for yourself. And I think that is an issue that a lot of us as growing up, whether as teen or even adults, many adults feel that they're no good. Or sometimes their parents tell them. My dad would used to tell me, how come you can't be like your sister? Well, in my generation, we don't answer back. So, but I quietly say in my mind, because she's 2 years older than me. So, and my sister was not academically smart, but she was street smart. In other words, she had a knack of saying and doing the right thing. So, and I wasn't. I wasn't. So, that's what happened. So, I committed myself at age 14 to full-time Christian ministry, but all those years, I didn't sense God calling. And when I turned 30 years old, I said, wow, Jesus started his public ministry. So I said to God, I remember making that commitment when I was 14, because I always remember, do you want anything else out of my life? Because I found that my life was good. I was married. I had a good job. I had a wife. I was married. Of course, I had a wife. I had good friends. So I was going. I said, do you want anything else? And no. So when I was 33 in 1981, I was at work. I was at the hospital where I had been working. In my life, I only had 2 jobs. I worked at a hospital pharmacist right there for 10 years, and pastor here. That's the only 2 jobs I ever had in my whole life. I had part-time jobs and working in the summers and all, but anyway, I better get on because anyway, I was at work, and these 4 words came into my mind. Now is the time. Now is the time. I knew exactly what it meant. And so within a day or so, I resigned from my position. I stayed there until they found someone else, but I resigned, and within a couple months, I was in seminary. So when I graduated seminary, my church, which is FCBC LA, called me to be on staff. I was really excited. I said, I get to work in my own church. I get to learn under these pastors. And so my senior pastor, first thing he said to me is, Jackson, go start a church. I said, Dr. Lin, I just graduated. He said, yeah, go start a church. And so that was this church. That was we started in 1985. So that's a little bit of my background, how life-changing things such as accepting Christ, getting married, hearing God call me into ministry, that God is a living God who is dynamic, and he is dynamic in his word, he is dynamic in our life, and he wants to communicate to us. He wants to communicate to you. If we read the Bible, that's a means of him communicating to us, that we may know him and he know us. And then in the Bible, it says God communicated through prophets, through dreams, through visions. And so, although I will not be dogmatic and say it was God speaking to me, when those words, those handful of time in my lifetime that came, I believe that it was God speaking. Okay, I can't be dogmatic about it. Like I could say, this is the word of God. Okay, but what I heard, I felt that it was God speaking to me, and so I acted on it. So as you mature, as you're growing, it's exciting. What a great time to be alive. You know, today, what a beautiful day, huh? What a great day to be alive and living for the Lord.
Thanks, Pastor Jackson, and thank you everyone for listening. Remember to ask us all of your questions or check out our archive at unicoiquestions.tumblr.com. And you can also find us on Instagram at fcbc.unicoi and on YouTube at youtube.com/unicoifilms. Thanks. See you soon.